Morning, everybody. We are back to carry on painting this. This is the drop lander from Games Art by Philipp that we started yesterday. And we're going to carry it on and do some detailing today. I hope everybody is doing well. It's going to be another chill, impromptu stream. Geeky Phoenix, how you doing? Good to see you as always, my friend. But today we're going to do some detailing on the outside and we're going to work on some of the innards. Try and get this thing finished up today if possible. And I've got some ideas of what I'd like to do with it. So I'm just going to grab a few bits and pieces just so you guys can see what I'm kind of working with here. So I'm also doing a time lapse up here. So actually the camera's kind of in the way of my, well, my phone's kind of in the way of my camera, I've just realized, but you don't need to see me. You're all good. We're here to see this. Right. Let's begin by opening this up. So, obviously this is a modular piece of terrain, which can be used for storytelling purposes, but also for things like Starfinder, Traveller, for things like Star Wars Legion, Warhammer 40k, where the 28 to 32 millimeter scale is going to really lend itself to helping you tell your stories and make those battles really epic. Yesterday, we took the insides out. So this right here is the Grid Forge system. Now, I've kind of just sprayed mine because I was in a bit of a rush, but basically all the Grid Forge stuff just pops out of the actual grid itself, which allows you to kind of customize how you want the inside of your terrain and your ships to look. And I'm going to pop that just in there like so. Then you have this, which is obviously the console and the pilot's chair, the stairs up to it. And then this one came from Games Art by Philipp directly with the 2 passenger seats on either side of the command console, which is really cool. Really like it. To be honest, if anybody's seen this channel before or is watching this back and is like, oh, why spaceships? Because we ran a sci-fi D&D campaign called Starfinder for 2.5 years. It ended the other week. And there you go. There's the bulkhead walls, which allow you to have those kind of cargo bay or passenger bay separation. But for now, I'm going to take all of those out, because we are going to be working on, although I'm going to do all of this in a little bit, and I'm probably going to be dry brushing a lot of that with like steel colors and metals, and then coming in to do the detailing in on the chairs. We still need to work on the outside of our drop lander. So I'm just going to move my mic just so that my time lapse doesn't necessarily have just my microphone in it. Hopefully you guys can still all hear me and the music's not too loud. Obviously, moderators, if you're there, let me know if things are too much or if you can't hear me. We are going to work on some orange. So something I did yesterday was I took these thrusters and I wanted them to be a neon orange to match this aqua wave, which is a style that I've never tried before, but was suggested to me on Instagram, I believe it was, to try out for this particular ship, that kind of like neon wave from blues to pinks. And to be honest, thanks to using an airbrush, that was a lot easier and done in a couple of hours. Doing good, thanks. More job apps going out today. Lake swim this evening and a Pokeball for lunch. Oh my God, I want a Pokeball. We'll need to take you to Poke Shack up here as it's amazing. Oh, so I've got mics on the way, Geeky. So we can do Breakfast Club, and I really want to get up, especially now that I've got like a little bit more free time. I want to make sure that I'm getting up to you and doing some kind of like in-person content, maybe play some games as well when we've got a chance. Either way, I want to come hang out. Because you are as much part of this channel as are all the time in-person people here. Right, so I am going to basically take that orange that we used for those thrusters, and I'm going to use it on things like the canopy just here. And I was going to do the vents yesterday, but what you can't... I don't know if it shows up on the camera, because I've got to look across the room at the other two TVs. But when we airbrushed over for this effect, what we were after catching was the back edges of all of these details to catch that blue, to give us that effect from that side, and then the pink from this side, which has worked really, really well. And I don't want to detract from that, you know? I don't want to have to, like, pull away and start painting those orange and then lose those heightened details. So I think I'm going to start with the orange on things like this like little key section just here, the canopy, then probably these two bits just here, but then again, they also are really big and catch those lovely neon colors. So I don't know, I guess we'll see. I'm going to start with those two bits there, and then we'll work our way around from there. Which means I need to start prepping some paintbrushes. And for somebody who used to do a lot of painting, oh, my paintbrushes are trash now because I haven't painted properly in a long time. Let's see what this one's like. I reckon that one will be all right. Dropped it already. So I'm going to need... So we started with an orange yesterday from the Army Painter. And then we used a fluorescent orange after the fact. So I'm not sure how well this is going to paint on because it's not the greatest to be brushed on. So I'm going to start with the Army Painter orange. It's got like a blue and a pink underneath it, so I think that's going to really pull through some of those colors. We'll see. We'll see. And I used the more intense of the two, which was the lava orange. Give that one a shake up. I've also had an idea today that with those deeper panel lines, I might go around with the good old panel liner and like let that soak through. But I am worried about that because I don't know, it's not like a solid black. And because it's an oil base, sometimes it can creep up, and I really don't want to just end up with like smudge marks everywhere. Although I could go in and, grime the ship up. I quite like the idea that it's not grimed up. The Army Painter Fanatics, I would normally not, well, I would thin down, but not always for terrain. This stuff's got a really nice consistency, and it kind of matches the AK interactive paints for me. And I kind of want that thick coverage really fast, but I'm dubious that this has been sat in my paint station for about 2 years now since the Fanatics came out, and I am a little bit like, is this going to be too thick? So I may water it down a little bit. I want to organise an airbrush session with you. Yeah, Chris. I mean, like when I get up to Bristol, I definitely want to, I don't know, cram everything into as little time as we get. Angie, hello. Thank you very much for coming into the stream. Yeah, so this was suggested by one of our followers on Instagram, and we thought we'd give it a go. I've never tried to paint like this before, so we are going for it. I'm going to use orange as like the pop of color. I'm going to use that on things like the canopy, and I'm going to start right at the top. Because the 3D print lines go from left to right across the top, I am going to paint with the 3D print lines. I really want that canopy to have all of the detail blocked out, which will allow us to give that color pop across the whole thing. But if I went down, I think we'll end up with bits that maybe end up slightly dry brushing. Yeah, so I want to try and make sure it goes with it. So this paint is definitely too thick, so I'm going to give it a little bit of a water down. Geeky Phoenix. No, Geeky Phoenix. I'm some Dak. I just saw that Dak had said Geeky Phoenix. Dak, good morning. Good to see you. Hope you're doing well, my friend. It's been a while since... Well, I say a while. We did one yesterday, but it's been a while since we sat here and painted on stream, so... good to just hang out and chat with you all. It's not something we get to do when we do the TTRPG stuff. So again, I'm just going through, and already that orange is going to pop up real nice. Once that's on and dried, I will go through and I will use that fluorescent orange as a top coat. So on the inside of the canopy, on either side of the pillars, we are also just doing upward strokes just to pull that paint closer to the top. And again, upward strokes just means that, like, where the liquid obviously wants to fall, you're pulling the pigment to the top, allowing you to get a more opaque colour closer to where eyes are going to meet the model. It will require a couple of coats, I think, this. Again, we are painting over purples, pinks, and blues. There's some really lovely angles to this ship. One of them is on the inside of the canopy. You can't see it, but instead of just coming straight down, it's like at an angle on the inside, which is really, really nice. You just have to be very careful not to go too far and end up on the actual bodywork of the hull. Again, we've got those lovely angular lines on the inside. Just pulling the paint across it and take my time. What I could do is just pull the front section off and make it easier to handle, to be honest. That's one of the joys of it being modular. Me being me, I've obviously done this the difficult way. Until I get a top coat on it, I don't want to pull anything apart. My chat timers are going off. Right, I didn't want those today. Setting. There we go. There we go. Chat timers should be off. Obviously, if people do want to follow those and go see all of our social and stuff, feel free. But today's just about chilling out and painting. I was only hoping to have the Kickstarter one in there, which is that one right at the end where you can go and back this amazing ship over on Kickstarter. And you should see the... This is only one part of the ship. It's absolutely bonkers that this is just kind of like the lander shuttle. The actual freighter itself is huge. The thing is massive. Dragonborn Industries, this is a good one. Your dice are stunning. People need to see them. Thank you very much. I'm hoping that now I've done a few more and I'm going to have a bit more time to get back to some dice making, actually. We had a really lovely time at Pendennis Castle this weekend where obviously we were playing, but also I was vending as a dice maker. It's a dice smith. And, yeah, there's a few that aren't on the website that are really new. And also a few, like, really big chunks that we did, like, properly, like, 50 mil size. And, yeah, I'm really proud with how those have turned out. So I'll definitely have to use that panel liner here. So what's happened is where I've just thinned down the paint in the canopy just there, in that dark line, we do have a little bit of bleed over, which is fine. I can sort that out in a minute. And that kind of channel will catch that. So I'm going to make sure that I remember to pull into there at the end with some black. And just separate out, because we really want the separation between the orange and the rest of the ship. Hey, just pin the Kickstarter link. Thank you very much. So everybody who is coming into the stream can check out what we're painting today. Thank you very much, Geeky. Always there for us, like you are. And then some of the other terrain you get with this Kickstarter is really fun as well. Like, for example, there is this stuff over here, which is like an outpost. And you can have like scatter terrain and a few extra little greebles that you can have all over your battle maps, over your playing areas if you're playing war games and stuff. I realise we've got the camera zoomed in and I'm just showing you the clutter in front of me where I've separated things out. Just trying to grab the insides of those pillars. And if I'm right, there's only about 6 days left of the Kickstarter. So for anyone who is checking it out, go now. Back. Let's take out of there. Realise that like I've got it up above the camera. Painting technique on camera has dropped somewhat since the days of painting up the Monster Manual. Hello, it's been a while. Wait, what Kickstarter? So, this particular ship just here is from Games Art by Philipp. And this is a current running Kickstarter that they have. And it's not just this ship. This ship has a full, like, cargo holder. There is loads of scattered terrain for battle maps and minis and stuff like that. So, they've sent this one out to us to let us have a play with and paint. And we're just having a jolly good time. Somebody suggested Aqua Wave, which is this kind of blues to pinks neon kind of OSL kind of color. So this is what we're doing. How are you, Ilo? It's been a while. Ooh, might send this to some friends then. Well, the link should be pinned, thanks to Geeky at the top of chat. I'm sure, hopefully it should be there for you. To be honest, it's good to see you. Haven't been able to engage with chat for a while, except during the Drift debriefs, just because we've been so busy trying to get TTRPGs done, which we don't interact with because we like to keep it within the story. So it's nice to kind of come back and hang out with the community again. Things have been up and down, to be honest. Yeah, you can tell me about that. I feel the same, but I hope things are on the up at the moment. You have these very precise lines just down here, just trying to catch them. And what I need to do as well is when I'm coming back in is just make sure that I'm not painting over something that's not quite dry, or else we're going to end up peeling away some of that paint and tearing it away. So although that's a little patchy to begin with on there, that's fine because we're going to give it another layer at some point. But for now, come actually on the inside of this, just there. There we go. We can really catch the rest of those inner lines from the underside. So I'm just coming in on the underside, where I think because this is kind of like the lid to a piece of terrain, I can be a little messier with the paint from that side. It's not really going to get seen. Even when playing with, you're going to take that lid off and you're not going to be like, oh, I look up. That's a narrative thing. So should be okay to just get in there and grab the last of these lines. Actually, yes, I failed an exam in major, so I had to switch and just got my message that I got accepted for my new major. Oh, awesome! Well, I'm glad that you got accepted for the new one. And that must be hard to work so hard and then feel like you fall at that hurdle. Again, just coming across the inside of those panels, just trying to catch anywhere that might be seen from the outside, especially when we go to take pictures of this later. We want to make sure we've just caught everywhere and that orange is really going to pop. And we're not going to just see a line where the paintbrush didn't reach or lost itself. Getting a little thick again on that paint. So I may have to water down again. Nice. I am so technologically illiterate that computer science scares me. Even when doing half of this stuff. I can just about cobble together a stream. Okay, so while I've been doing the insides, the outside is actually relatively dry, so I'm going to have a chance now to go through. I'm going to just add a little bit more water to that again, just to kind of give me a little bit of a thinner paint. And I should now be able to follow the entire line without having to worry about going with the 3D print lines, because we've already covered those deeper areas. There's an area just underneath this top light, and I believe that's what this is. So just here, there are like two little cute lights. It's an area that I just missed with my first pass. So we're just going in again. And again, we're just trying to make sure that color is solid, so that when we put that neon on top of it, it's got a really good base to work. And that hopefully, if the neon is a little patchy, the undercoat does its job of hiding any blemishes or mistakes. There we go. So that is just the canopy starting to be covered. I'm going to go around. I'm going to do this T key just here. I'm actually going to try and leave. There's like a bit just on top of it that's caught that blue and that pink real nice. And I'm going to try and just take the top edges and leave that neon colors on the sides. Hopefully then we'll still get that aqua wave effect across it. I'll take this big area first. And again, I'm going with the lines, 3D printing lines. Require a steady hand, one that I don't quite have, to make sure this is perfect, but hopefully be good enough for me. Hands are very, very shaky. can use is the side of the brush. But what I don't want to do is use the side of the brush too flat, because I don't want it to go over onto the other part of the fuselage. And again, just trying to follow that line real gently, because I really don't want to fuck this up. The orange on top of the pink is not going to be hidden easily. There we go. So that's the base color of the start of the tiki, but now I've got to get up here around this exposed and raised bit of detailing, which is real pretty, but I also want to make sure that I do not lose that effect that we put on with the airbrush yesterday. Which means that I probably am going to have to just very slightly, very gently. There we go. I didn't go with the 3D print lines there because I just wanted to make sure I got a straight line. Hopefully, the rest of the paint job will be enough to cover us. Do the same on the other side. And then we've got this section over here. It's just tiny little taps with the brush, just pulling it along. Hoping that I don't go too far up anything else. Just following any edges, but realizing I need to still leave a little bit of that blue and that pink to really kind of like show through. So there is that bit just there. Now we need to pick out some other spots as well. So we've got this kind of nipple over here. I actually want to do the top of that in orange as well. Nice splodge in the middle. I'm just going to push it out, following those 3D print lines, and then pull it to this side. And I just want to do the top. I don't want to get the edges. So again, I want to leave that for those neon colors to pick up. Then we have this stripe at the top here, of which I will probably grab the top, the front and the back, and leave the sides. Because the sides, again, have that bright pink, that bright blue, and I think that will just keep with the aqua wave that we're trying to accomplish. The front should be fine. It'll give us the definition between the two areas. Same with the back. It's more just dabbing down the middle. And we'll push and pull the paint to where we need it to be. Try and get the side of the brush actually. Just give me that straight line without going over from this side. And again, although you can get the STLs of these, they are also doing physical prints. So I can tell you from the quality of this, it's worth it. It's actually making following or going against 3D printing lines quite easy. We've got a little nodule at the top of the door over here. I'm going to grab that as well, do the same thing. And I think there are these two lovely little details there and there. I think they also would benefit from the orange. Just doing anything that kind of gives us those few extra little bits. And again, because it's at a 45 degree, I'm using the brush in an upward stroke to pull that pigment towards the top. That way, hopefully we get some bright colours towards where the eyes are drawn. Same again for that front bit, just like we did at the top. We do the same as we come around the back. Just grabbing those little details. Trying not to go over the edges onto where those neons are caught. And again, where the thicker print lines are for those y-axis 45s, I'll have to make sure that I really get in there as well. And again, it's going to require probably a couple of layers. Hopefully I'll also get a nice little time lapse out of this. Just going to quickly put that line in so I can see where I'm working. There we go. I can be a little bit more forgiving with the freehand. So we pull those pigments again back to the top of this area of detail. So we should have those two bits at the back, that line, and we've got that nice spine coming down. I think the windows are going to have to be something else. Tiny little detail on the top there. As I just think, if I do those in orange as well, they're not going to match. But I could do maybe like a metallic, maybe like a gold, possibly. Oh, I almost put that in my coffee then. Maybe something like a Turbo Dork Afterburner. Give me a second to find it and I'll show you what I mean. That could be quite good. We've got like a Fahrenheit, which is like a pink orange. Not what I had in mind. So many paints to get through. There we go. So Afterburner is a kind of, it's got a base color of green, but it goes all the way up through the reds and through the kind of goldy yellows. And I think that in those windows could be good. Fahrenheit's kind of a pinky orange. That could also be good. Oh, I also regrettably started playing Magic again, which is fun but expensive. Yeah, it is. My eldest is into Magic now, and I'm just trying to divert the current of wanting to buy loads of cards and editions into not doing that, because fuck that. I wonder if something like Wavelength, like the blues and purples maybe? That could be fun. We'll play with those in a minute. My only issue there is that I find with Turbo Dork, I'm going to sneeze. I find with Turbo Dork, they're a lot better when you airbrush them in, and I do not want any overspray on this, so we are going to have to paint them in, and they're going to require one hell of a lot of shaking because I haven't used them for years. So we'll see. As for the detailing on this, I may have to... Thing is, I'm wondering if I should do these big back panels just here. If we've got this down the center line, is it better if we match it here? Same with, for example, when we close this up, we have, see the orange pops there, and there. Then it would come in here on these bits, which means that we would also need to do it on this bit. Oh no, I've touched it with orange on the underside. So I guess we're doing it there. Where did I have orange? That's what I get for not wearing gloves. And then potentially these panels as well. So, yeah, I think we're going to have to do that. Oh, that's annoying. Make sure I haven't got that anywhere else. Yeah, so we're going to try and grab those big panels. And again, just try not to touch the sides. I only want the top of them. So again, I want that aqua wave effect to work. Water it down just a little bit more again. I am going against the print lines just for the moment while I put in those straight lines at the edges. I will then do the rest as we go. There's a guy who does Magic vids. He starts with "Welcome collectors of luxury cardboard rectangles." Yes, a love-hate relationship with Wizards of the Coast. I mean, you would, wouldn't you? What I didn't quite get is, and what nearly drew me back in at the same time, was Final Fantasy. One, I fucking love Final Fantasy. And I really wanted the cards. What confused me is they have their own TCG. And yet agreed to let Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro do the whole licensing thing to have there as well. I'd have thought they'd have just sunk more money into trying to promote their own card brand, but Magic is the big one, isn't it? So yeah, ever since Series 7, stopped playing. I got my ass kicked as a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle. Ass kicked. regularly. Now I just collect for the art. Yeah, I mean, I have found a demographic of Magic the Gathering players who play for fun. And the other ones that are power players who are like, yeah, 3 turns, I beat you. And I'm like, cool. Cool. I'm still learning. Cool. And that kind of put me off massively. I did enjoy the draft. I used to do that. That felt a bit fairer. Yeah, we have to water that paint down again. I'm actually going to take my water closer to where the paint is, rather than have it going across the top of the ship. That's the first one. And again, we're going to try and catch that back panel. Yeah, if I drew many people in, but... Oh, FF drew many people in, but Wizards of the Coast started overdoing Universe Beyond. We got flipping Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Spider-Man. Yeah, and that sort of doesn't really do it for me. I liked it when it was its own world. And it was its own thing. I thought it was kind of cool. It had lore and stories and stuff like that. Obviously, like, it's a bit of a money grab. And I suppose you could justify it by being like, oh, my wizard conjures from other planes of existence. Haha, Spider-Man. But I just... Yeah, Spider-Man, I'm on Arena. So we got, what F it was. New Marvel set coming next. Problem is, every card I've seen so far is beyond awesome. Motherfucker going to be next. Yeah, the artworks are always cool. Yeah, I don't know. Sometimes we don't need to go too... In my mind, sometimes we don't need to go too far. And I think that... I actually see this with Dungeons & Dragons. Where, like, I'm actually kind of like, how long until we start seeing Spider-Man in Dungeons & Dragons? Like, in official, like, Faerun stuff. And like, oh, you know, now we're doing a collaboration with Alien. And now Aliens, Xenomorphs are in there. And I'm like... We can leave well enough alone sometimes. We can just leave it as it is. It's fine. We don't mind. You know, we've got good stuff already. But I guess it draws in new people. And if some people who have never played Magic are then like, oh, what? I'm really into Donatello from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And if that's their thing, cool. Hopefully it doesn't stop people from playing, you know, with each other in communities and stuff. But I'm sort of like, yeah, I don't need... Like, if I'm going to play Magic, I want the classic vibe, you know? I used to play cephalopods. I think that's what they were called. Like, really, really long time ago. I think even the deck I still have that I play with my eldest every now and again is it's a blue control or command deck. I can't remember what it's called. Control? Yeah, control. Oh, shaky hand on this one here. But we're doing all right. I don't know, because Dak, you're a Marvel fan, and kind of superheroes is like one of your big things in comic books and stuff. Did you find that the crossover was a good thing, or were you like, yeah, I'm getting what I want out of this content? Or were you like, nah? Bring that line back in on this one, getting a little messy. Hands are a little shaky. Definitely going to need some extra layers on those big bits. They should separate them. I would enjoy playing Marvel Magic against others, but it shouldn't be within their, they undermine their own mythos. Yeah, I think I think you're right. I think that, like, because I don't know what tournament plays are like. I don't know what official stuff is. The Lord of the Rings set confused me, and all the different sets have to have different mechanics. I'm still learning Edition 7. I mean, yeah, it'd be against UP if you weren't 4 out of the 7 sets in the year. Yeah. I think when I got slightly back into it was there was a World Cup on, and England obviously went nuts for it. And I remember that I was in the pub with other people, and I was like, fuck this, I'm going to go do something else and then come back and have something to entertain me. And I went off and I bought like a starter set, and I had a black-green deck, I think it was, and I pulled some boosters, and I ended up with Vraska Pirate Queen as a Planeswalker, like as a pull, which was fucking awesome. And I played for a bit, and I did the draft after that. Ixalan, I think, was the name of the edition. And I was like, oh, cool, I could get really into this. And I started doing the draft, and I like went to like the local comic book shop, and I was like playing, and then getting my ass handed to me. And then I think the set I bought was like not the most recent edition, because I then went to go like enter a tourney to be like, oh, look, cool, let's see what this is like. And they're like, yeah, you can't use Ixalan. And I was like, what? But like, you're still selling boosters, and they're just like, nope, those editions are no longer tourney legal. We're only on like certain ones here. So the turnover of editions is so quick, or it was at least back then, that I was like, so wait, what? I've spent all this money and I'm not allowed to play? That sucked. Yeah, they wouldn't be able to put them in with that heavy editing. Arena 1 would be more popular because no one wanted Spider-Man in paper. Yeah, fair enough. Right, that's the top end. Drying there. So now I need to pick out some details on the bottom. Obviously, we fucked up over here, so we're going to grab that bit. I'm going to instantly cover that. I'm less bothered about being precise on the bottom, because most people aren't going to see this section. I'm just going to try and... Oh wow, my paint's still really thick. Put a center line in, and then I can smooth out from there. Oh, actually, I didn't go around the back of that bit, did I? There we go. Yeah, illegal card turnover is mental. I keep going back to Arena and can't be bothered redoing all my decks. Also, my physical decks are now probably all illegal apart from the lands. Yeah, right. And it's just... I get it, I do. It keeps the game fresh. It changes the meta. But maybe I just wanted to take part, and I couldn't. Which is probably a good thing, because it means I'm not spending hundreds of pounds essentially gambling for the chase cards. I mean, says the guy that did that for Star Wars and then really doesn't play that often. But at least for Star Wars, it's like, I'm not going to see Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles cropping up, you know? And again, I don't mind them, it's just I don't want it in that system. With RPGs, and Marvel has their game out, so I don't think you'll have to worry about that crossover. And there are Alien, Dune, Fallout RPGs. I think they wouldn't be indeed. No, I agree, and they have their own thing. But then back to Final Fantasy had their own trading card game. They literally got their own trading card game, and yet that's been out for years, and they're still bringing stuff out. It's doing all right. It's no, Magic the Gathering, but yet they still did it. So I'm like, oh, okay. And I don't know. I find that with D&D at the moment, because of the whole like, everybody can do everything from every class all of a sudden, and it's like, I am struggling with the fact that it's making things too, I guess, it's not accessible, but like, just, I don't know, it kind of just says fuck you to the rules, and that classic playing a hero. I think there was a bit that I saw recently that they're releasing a subclass where you get to basically play as, like, you're on the path to lichdom. Which, I'm like, we're supposed to be adventurers and heroes in this game, and that's kind of like how I want to play. Yeah, I want to see, you know, heroes fighting lichers. You know, I don't want to see the struggle of, like, somebody becoming a lich, because I think it pulls against the idea that, like, you're supposed to be the heroes of the worlds. And although you can be a bit of an anti-hero and stuff, I don't know, I know sometimes we don't need to go so far. Maybe I'm stuck in my ways. But yeah, it's just like the idea that, like, you walk into a tavern and you're half undead. And, like, that place isn't going to be like, what the fuck? Put it down. Get a shovel. Burn it with a torch and stab it with a pitchfork. You know? Maybe I'm just not accepting enough. So the UB sets that are in standard, you also see that it's not really a single card is being used from Spider-Man or TMNT because the cards are bad and basically only worth Commander, so why print them for standard? Yeah. So in second edition they had rules where you could play undead and play first edition. So there you go, I've just learnt something new. I did not know that. But maybe, yeah, maybe I'm just too stuck in my ways. But it does feel like being, you know, a rogue and having your abilities, or being a druid and having your abilities, is no longer enough for people. They're like, I want to also do this. I chose a barbarian because I want to be strong and a fighter and not have to wear armor, but I also want to be able to cast magic. Okay, well, cool. Everybody has their different play styles. Maybe I'm just happy being enough in one class. So we've got these bits that we just painted on the underside are coming around. I'm going to grab those as well. Just tying it into those thrusters again. And we are going to have to, again, double layer up the orange. Because I don't want to put that down just yet. So I want to paint these wing bits, but I don't want to put them down. And I could just take them off, but again, I don't want to separate any of this as it is. So I'm going to put that down over there. Just make sure there's nothing else. I'm going to leave that as it is. I just want the back bits done. And then we will come back in and do a second layer on these. So I don't understand this drive for absolute parity in their games. So what if one has more health and armor and can fight better than me? I have spells. Yeah, right. And that's kind of like where I'm at. It's like, and I think a lot of people are fine with it, and a lot of people kind of like, you know, there's a reason you're a party. You've all got different skills that are supposed to come together to then, you know, face whatever adversaries the campaign has to throw at you. You know. If you need a lockpick, then you need to go find somebody who's good at picking locks. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, but I can do that too. Okay, where have you learned that? Wizard school? Oh, did you not learn to do that arcane? I did it both ways. Cool, I suppose you could justify that. What about you, druid? Oh, I learned to do it in the wild. Oh, okay. I don't know. I guess it's justifying it. And if you can make it fit, but I think some people don't do that and they just go straight to, yeah, I've taken this that way. I can do everything. Yeah, work as a team instead of trying to solo everything. I think that's kind of... That's just what I want. I just want a classic vibe, you know? Alright, coming back in across this key section again. Hoping only a second layer will be enough. Again, I don't necessarily need to follow those lines again because we've already got those in. No! Got a slight orange over. So I'm just going to take a wet brush, try and push that away. Got careless. There we go. So that's the canopy and that T section covered. Let's go back in and do the top of this bit. Pushing that circle out a bit further. Just trying to get those solid colours. That'll then hopefully contrast the rest of how the ship is done. Because that back's a nice big flat panel, we can really put some colour down on it. There we go. A little dry and a little thick on that paint again. I'm hoping that it's just at the right consistency to kind of not streak. Just a little bit of water there. So, grabbing that back, little nodule. Then we've got these two big panels again. Hopefully just come through with that orange, just thicken up that color, make it a little bit more opaque. I'm no pro painter. I haven't painted properly in a long time. So I'm not expecting this to be immaculate. Just as long as I'm happy with it. Again, bring this one out here. Be aware of those edges so we don't lose any of that neon spray over that we had yesterday. There we go. So that's the top so far. Look, there's nice bright orange colours. Is a little streaky on those back big panels, but I'm going to leave that as it is for now so I don't take it too far. And then we'll work back again on these ones here. It's not as dry as I'd like it to be, but we do have this inside just here that I can do. Again, just adding those bright colours just to make those extra little bits pop. Okay. Let's grab this side. Trying to be careful not to rip any of the previous paint layers. So it's still a little wet. Pushing it up towards that edge. And then bringing it back down. A little streaky on the underside, but that's going to be okay. There we go. So, now that we have those bits there, I do need to let those dry, because that's going to... Oh no, that should be okay, actually. Yeah, that's not touching the ground. No. My worry over nothing. Right, so I'm going to try and grab these two bits on the wings. So I want those to be orange as well. Luckily, we've got a left to right print for how this was done, so it should be relatively easy to be able to grab those lines and just pull it across. I may have thinned my paint a little too much there. Hopefully I can use it as a... across. Trying to go for that, basically. Has anyone ever played on a platform like Roll20, joined a game and felt like you were basically an NPC for the other players when you notice you're not part of the team? No, but I have had sessions like that in the past where I don't vibe with the crew. Like maybe like I've played some D&D games in the past. It's weird when you have it when you're the GM. You're like, huh. I'm not right here. So, just trying to get those little pops. Oh, just touched part of the underside. My bad. Make sure I've got nothing on my fingers. So, let's grab this and put it on. What I really like about this particular model is there are these tiny, tiny, teeny tiny little clips like this, which takes seconds to print. What they're good for are these little bits here, so you don't have these massive open lock clips. They just act as extra secure bits for either the grid forge system to go in, or for you to be able to put down the top and it just sit real nice. So I'm a big fan of that. And obviously this is the ship so far. I was tempted to put that stripe as orange as well, but I'm not too sure. I don't think I'm going to. I think I'm going to leave that where it is. I don't want to go too far with it. I kind of just like the top being where it is in terms of the oranges. I think that lends itself to it quite nicely. Now we need to go around and find out how we're going to paint these windows. Simply because when it comes to using things like wavelength or Fahrenheit or afterburner, they are used best over. So, for example, this one says this particular turbo shift is shake well and must be used over black. That one is an over black job. Use over an orange base coat for metallic pink for the Fahrenheit. And for wavelength, this is also used over black. So, if that's the case, then I need to go in and I need to paint those windows black before we do anything else. I'm just going to look through some of my other colors just to see if there's anything in particular that I quite like the look of. In all fairness, the wavelength is really cool. It's got like that pink to blues that could work really well. But I can't guarantee if it's going to come out more blue or if it's going to come out more pink. Kind of like, you see that shift there. Same with that one. And then the afterburner, which is going to come out gold. Have a little bit of red in it. We've been going for an hour. Let's see what else we have. Spicy meatballs, very reddy pink. So these are Turbo Dorks, geeky. They are shifter paints, which are really cool. I also have a few from Green Stuff World. And I think they work really well through an airbrush. You get a really smooth coat. I find brushing them on a little bit streaky, a little bit problematic. Even when heavily watered down, they can be a bit patchy. It's my opinion. I'm not a pro painter. I might be doing something wrong. They've also got like iridescence and stuff. Oop. Also got Let Them Eat Cake, which is like a very dark blue to purple. That one might be the winner, actually. Will it? Thing is, the purple I think works really well, but I'm wondering if the blue will be too blue, you know? Some of them are shifters, some of them are just regular metallics. Like a purple grey. Go brighter. Carrack, which is like a pink, purplish, greeny blue. That could be quite fun if it works. Maybe that. We have some big areas to cover, and that one also is going to be over black. Multipath. Could be 2 orange. Prism powder is an iridescence. Use a black or a zenithal base coat. I assume they mean a zenithal black and white because you can do it in multiple colors. Might be too pink. And 3D glasses, which is a favorite of mine, but is very much like Skyrat, which is again that kind of like green to purple. I think Skyrat might take it. Yeah. What I'm going to do is I'm going to run down to the house and I'm going to go and go to the toilet. I'm going to feed the dog. I'll be back in about 5 minutes time, so I'm going to go to a quick 5-minute interval, and I'll be back to continue painting. So yeah, stick around, guys. It's not my fault if you've got a cart full of Turbo Dork. That's your own fault. Depends what you're going to do with it. Because I really like the stuff. I'm going to actually restart time lapse. I do love the stuff. I really, really do. They do some incredible colors. We've actually been on shows with Greg and Meredith, who run Turbo Dork, and Meredith was like CEO of Steve Jackson Games as well. She's a lovely, lovely person. Greg is a really lovely guy. They're two really tremendously lovely people. They've recently been doing colors for Paizo for their Pathfinder minis, which is fucking cool as well. Very much in my area of interest. And yeah, so the only problem I find is they require some fucking mixing. And I mean, real fucking mixing. For example, I'm gonna go with Skyrat. That's the one I'm gonna choose that. This is a paint spinner, and these things separate. So as you can see in there, you can see the difference between like all the whites, all the pigments falling to the bottom. They require some proper going at, and to the point where I might go find an agitator as well to throw in there to really mix that up, because that pigment will have, all that metallic flake will have gone to the bottom. And they've got safety caps, which is a great thing, but also can be a pain in the ass. Where is their catch? But they do have at least catches on their paint that allow you to do that. Right, agitators. So, somewhere in here. Ball bearings. I'm going to throw one of those. I might throw two of those in there, to be honest. Just go through some of that. And then I'm going to grab a really shitty brush I don't use or is fucked. Or is just a stick. There we go. Even better. And I'm going to disturb that pigment at the bottom. And this isn't how I would fully mix it, but I just need that pigment to pick up, because at the moment, that's all water and paint bases. And all of the heavy pigment is right round in those corners. And although my agitator will catch a lot of that, I'm about to spin it, which we obviously want to catch as much of that as we can. So, the reason these work better over other colors is because of how they're designed by Greg and Meredith. What is annoying is that the Green Stuff World catcher is great for Citadel paints. It comes in 3 sizes. It's just loose enough on that one there to not catch. So I have to hold the top of that one and burn the inside of my hand. And I'm just going to spin that up for a minute or two. I do enjoy this tool. It's good fun. But I do hear bad things about Green Stuff World, so I'm not really sure to endorse them or not. I do want to get a vortex mixer, one of those vibrating ones where you put the paint down on top of it, you just hold it and it goes. Brrrt. Yeah, it's pretty fun. For things like Army Painter and stuff, and for the Green Stuff World paints, especially their shifters, fucking top tier tool. Real top tier tool. So that's been going for a little while, and it's probably still not mixed enough. Oh, actually, it's not too bad in there. And you can see down this side bit here. And not only that, is I'm mixing this now. And I'm still probably... not going to be mixed enough. And I still need to do the black first. You've got a vortex mixer, and it's okay. But it's for nail polish, and it's meh. I thought they were specifically designed for paint. But then I'm not in this world anymore, so... That'll probably do for that mix. But yeah, so they come with like 3 different size caps. Especially for things like Duncan Roads. They fit in there really nicely. Same with Fanatics. And the Green Stuff World obviously is a lovely, lovely fit. Really tight and snug in there. We will be using that one in a little bit. But I do need some black. Now. I'm going to use matte black from the Army Painter. Oh, no. I know what I'm going to use. Yeah, the two thin coats from you, Geeky. I used them on my Resident Evil things, and I'm going to hopefully carry on painting. I want to play that again soon. But I'm actually going to use more Green Stuff World Gloss Surface Primer in those windows. And I'm going to brush that in. I could even use, I think, the big one for that. Just dubious of it spinning off and away. So I'm just keeping my hand over it for a little bit. I've got about an hour and 20 before I have to disappear again to go be an adult. I think we've got enough time to get at least the black on and maybe the start of some of that. Work. So, before I get those on, I think what we're going to have to do, now that those orange bits have had a moment to dry, just to go over the wing bits, because again, they're quite proud on the sides. Just make sure that they're nice and solid colours. Water down some orange. Don't want those to be lost with a watery finish. I've gone ever so slightly over with the side there. Just take some water. There we go. Just brush it away. And again on the other side. Just because this is the top of the ship, and when we look at it, it's going to be one of those first points of interest that's going to really be seen. There we go. Right. So, I reckon... Do I grab the top bit first, or do I start working my way around? No, in fact, I've literally just painted that bit, so we are going to start on the top bit. And we can do at least these bits here and here. They're relatively flat. So hopefully we can then just let that sit into those. Yeah, I reckon let's go with that. Boom, boom, boom. Just noticed as well, Corianti yesterday with one-time gifted sub. Thank you very much. Obviously, big shout out to Geeky yesterday for those as well. If you are watching and you have a Prime sub, feel free to hit us up with a Prime sub. Painting isn't our mainstay of the channel. It's actually TTRPGs. We've just finished a 2.5-year Starfinder campaign where things like this ship would be very useful. And we have used a lot of the game's art by Philipp ships and a lot of the Second Dynasty ships and some other creators out there as well. And we are currently running Curse of Strahd, which is run by Steph. And that'll be on tonight, if you're watching this live. 7 p.m. Right, time to let this spill everywhere. A nice thick amount of that into my palette. And then I'm going to grab a slightly thicker brush, that one there. There we go. So, oosh. Let's start at the front here. I can go quite heavy because the other airbrush painting has done a matte job on the rest of the inside of this. If I want to get the gloss finish from this particular primer, I will have to go heavy. And again, this is the kind of one where I would airbrush it normally, but I can't afford the overspray. So that one's in there now. Oh, that was close. I'm going to tidy that up before I forget it's there. Loaded up my brush a bit too much. Because this is a runnier paint, it should allow me to just throw it on there and it will do the job of sinking into where it needs to sink into. But I also don't want to go up onto the second ridge and lose that aqua wave style paint scheme. Yeah, I don't think I've used the two thin coats all that much to be able to give it its proper review. And I don't know, who knows, maybe hopefully in the next few months I'll be painting a bit more and we'll find out. Not the neatest of lines from me there. On that one. But it will have to do for now. Letting the brush push into the corner. And just pulling it the direction I need it to go. Same again down here. So just getting those like areas in and letting the primer settle in ready for that turbo dork shifter to go in on top of it. These windows are going to be a little harder to control because of the curves. pulling that primer up to where it needs to be. One just there. I'm going to do the... No, we'll stick to the same side. Go. Just trying to concentrate along those lines. Just to give me a nice coverage as well into all those corners. What I do like the Turbo Dork paints for are a few of the solid metallic colours work really well when I'm inking dice. Okay, that's our windows, coloured in black for now, on the top of the fuselage. I thought I'd get the innards done today as well, but I guess I'm not. So, we're going to turn this one upside down. We're going to do the same on here. So, ooh, that's half a window. Just here. That's part of a window as well, actually. Which means we need to get that on the other side as well. I do like the symmetry on this ship. Big fan of symmetry. This one's going to be a bit harder to follow, just because of how I have to hold the ship. Make sure I haven't touched anywhere wet. I'm going to grab the inside and the nose. Little too far on that one there. I'm going to slight bit over. I'm just going to take our wet brush, load up with some water, and then just push away. Anything with excess that we don't want. Right. Come in again on this one. What's nice is the detail's deep enough that the brush can be pushed against a lot of it and allowed to just catch those corners, and then you can just pull away and just follow lines, which is really, really good for making it easy to paint. Slightly off camera there, actually. Just trying not to put down the model where I've been painting. Just trying to not put my hand into any of the paint. As we learned earlier, I'm a klutz. Okay. So hopefully, that's the majority of... He says putting his hand straight into the paint. The window's now blacked out. So, that should allow us to... Once that's dry, paint using Skyrat. Just put somewhere. There it is. And put the other ones away. That Skyrat will hopefully sit over that black and give us that sheen and that shift that we want. Yeah, must be used over black, so we know that that's the way we want to go. We have to wait for this to dry, though. I cannot go over it if it's not dry. What I might do is just here between the two windows, you can see like that pink line. I might actually take the black over that edge ever so slightly. That way when the lid is on, it's not going to look like there's a pink or a blue line going through that shifter paint. There we go. And as much as I want to airbrush that shifter on, I really can't afford the overspray onto the rest of the model. Keep touching the bits of the black, which is my own fault. It's not going to help us get it to dry. But I guess while I put that to one side, I could probably grab some gunmetal and just start dry brushing the shit out of the inside. I'm going to start by just doing the panels and the floor. And the reason I'm going for that is because a lot of my sci-fi terrain, if I stick to metallics, we can then narratively say how that looks different in our stories. So I kind of keep it neutral with the gunmetals and with silvers. I might add things like a yellow to any kind of stairwell stuff or the odd bit of detailing there. Obviously, buttons and screens, they're completely different. Leather on chairs, completely different. That's where our color pops are going to come in. But with the actual metallics of the flooring, the bulkheads, the walls, that all tends to be silver for me. That way I can make it uniform across anything that I'm building, and also interchange parts, as that's kind of the point of the Grid Forge, is to make things interchangeable. I am going to grab some gloves because we have to hold bits to do the dry brushing. Something like Necron Compound straight over black is a very cheers easy, very quick way of painting up something like this. I actually have used that a lot. That way it's literally like prime it black, Necron Compound, everything on there. But we'll see what we're doing today. What I will do is I'll move that out of the way as well. As much as that's fun for you to see, we do need to show you the insides. Put that down there for now, and we'll work on this bit over here. And the camera's just going to keep focusing on the ship if I don't do that. So, looking for a metallic dry brush. Knowing me, I've taken it down to the house. No, I have some right here. Necron Compound. Ooh, there's not much left in that though. So let's find out. And we're just going to go straight in across something like the doors. I can then use the heavy amounts on that top ridge, allowing that light to hit there a lot easier. And I'm actually going to do downward strokes. Now, with FDM printing, I would actually normally go... No, actually, I will do on this one. I'll show you. Normal dry brushing, you'd come down from the top. FDM printing, because of the FDM printing lines, it's better to go with the lines. That way you're not picking up on those and you're only picking up on the intended details of the model. Like so. I'll show you going down it. Don't know if that will show up very well. If I go down, you actually end up picking up the FDM lines, and we don't want that. So we go across. That was a little heavier than I anticipated. That's fine. We did it near the top where the light sources would be hitting. Making sure we're catching the insides of that archway as well, just in case you end up taking pictures in there. Just grab the other one. And again, while our brush is heavy, it's not actually. Catching those edges. Just to take off the excess before we catch anything else. Load up my brush and the tissue there. And it's just something I like about terrain is I don't need to be super precise. I don't need to be super detailed. You actually can let dry brushing do a lot of the work to catch things like details and just those top highlights. Things like our minis and stuff and characters that we play with, we really want those to be hyper detailed and for each individual stroke to tell a story of how what we do and how we play. The terrain tells a story, but it also needs to have purpose across multiple outlets. So I could go into detail and paint on everything that I imagine a party would have on there or that they've done. What if I want to use this for more things other than Starfinder? What if I want to use it for 40k? What if I want to use it for Star Wars Legion? How do I make it go across? Well, I'm going to keep it really simple and then narratively describe the other things if we need to. Again, just trying to catch everywhere we can, especially with these steps. These are going to be, because they're an awkward angle. It's better if we just go over with a heavy dry brush everywhere, and then we can pick out any details that we want after the fact. Our dry brush here is essentially our base coat and our generic detail grabber, essentially. That chair actually comes out, so I can get in there and really kind of let this have it. And again, this is all Grid Forge. So again, we've got like the risers, which then come up. So I could have that console just in at the base. But what they've done and the one they've sent out to me is really awesome because it's raised up and it's got those steps going up to it. Kind of gives that, you know, that command feeling to it. So I am going around the chair as well. And that's because I imagine this chair is metallic and that it has elements to it that we want to show through. And again, we're using one of those tiny little clips in there that makes the chair come in and out. So you could take that out, put a mini in there. If you had like a pilot or a captain that you were like, that's who I wanted there at the moment. Which is very fun. Again, that modular versatility of the Games Art by Philipp stuff is awesome. So there we go. Just getting the basis of things done. So, obviously, those bits coming afterwards, we're going to go in, and I don't have my bigger brush on me. So, we're going to carry on with this makeup brush, and we're just going to really go across these tiles. I'm going to pick one direction, and I'm going to stick to it. And it probably is not going to need all that much outside of that. I will go a little heavier up here because we did down here. Now, what I would do if I was like, depends on, I guess, what else I'd be using the tiles for. I like that each one of these squares has an outline, which you could then paint in like a red or a yellow, especially for like cargo holds and engineering bays. I imagine, or how I envision them, is to always have this kind of like bright yellow. Same with like the steps going up, this bright yellow hand railing, this kind of like warning you are here. Same with there's these cargo loaders just here. Looks like these two things would open up narratively. You could outline those. You can even do the ones by the airlocks in a red to be like warning, you know, imminent danger of death if you go out here when you're not ready or when you're not suited up. So there are different ways that we can then tell a story with the paintbrush. And those would lend themselves to it. What I am going to do is I'm now going to grab the ship innards and I'm going to dry brush those walls to match the floor. That way, it's all kind of coherent, especially with these like big vents and these big grates here on the one side. A little too heavy there. Same with that door just there, actually. The ramp at the back. We want that separation between the two. I don't want to go too far over into the purples that we did on the side of the ship. But we can have a little bit of there. Because of the angle of this one here, little circles are probably best for me to get at. But again, just doing that, you can see the difference in the detail. And that's all it needs to be. Just allowing the brush to glide over a lot of those areas. That angle's a little harder because of where that particular detail sits and the direction of the 3D print. So we need to go in a downward stroke across there. Go circles again, heavy on that front just there. And it doesn't overly matter with the gunmetal if we go and get it in odd directions, because sometimes that's like the scuffs of the ship having been used. You know, when we think of space, we do think of it being kind of grimy, and we have these, you know, well-used ships that aren't going to be immaculate necessarily. That one was a little too heavy, so we'll have to go in there afterwards and just make sure to blend some of that down. Just trying to take it off the top again. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to get the floor, just going in quite heavy, left to right. Following the print just to try and get some of those higher details to really stand out. And it doesn't overly matter because we're going to have the grid forged floor in there. But you might not want to use the grid forged floor. You might want to just keep it to the base model. There are the details still in there for that reason. Again, that modularity being one of the best things about 3D printed terrain and this particular Kickstarter. Giving you the options to tell stories how you want to. So again, it's just rough. So that when we get to these bits, we can just throw them in. And thanks to it being grid forge, as we go through and I start detailing the insides, I can choose which bits to pull out. I'm like, oh, I'm going to do the stairs. I'm going to do that chair. I'm going to pull out one of these and start going around each one of those. I could, I think this one's a little bit stiffer, but there you go. It's not that hard to get out. If I want to go do like the detailing around that particular hatch, I can. Which allows me to either leave it as it is, which I'm not going to do, especially for like this area here is, you know, where all the detail is. That's quite literally, when you're inside it, where the story gets told. It's where all the important stuff is. It's where the cockpit is, the pilot's chair, the console, the data terminal, anything that could be an objective, anything that could be narrative, that's all up there. You then kind of got the secondary room and this secondary door. All of those details can be picked out with like lining work, but everything color-wise I think is going to be pretty much up at the front. But just having the gunmetal on alone gives us that working inside. And it's a bit monochromatic for now, but it will absolutely do. The paint is still drying on our windows, which is fine. But even just like the cockpit as it is, you can now start seeing that metallic coming through. the details of the actual console, the chair, which is why things like, and I don't know if it will show up, but those console buttons, again, we're going to want to color those. We're going to want to make sure that they are detailed, simply because that's where the point of interest is. When you look through, you see all the color on the outside, but then you see things on the inside and you go, oh shit, there's more to happen here. So let's do a little bit of that while we're waiting for the other paints to dry. So I'm going to take that straight off the grid forge. I'm going to put the ship back to one side again. Got the chair. I think the chair, I just need something, maybe something subtle like a brown on the actual leather cushions. Or maybe we go like out to that yellow. Don't know yet, but let's work on the actual console itself. We've got buttons down the side, we've got it in the center, we've got some screens. I think these flat bits here are also screens. So let's grab some bright colors. Obviously, for a screen, I'm thinking blues and green. So probably blue. The green would go on the opposite side of the color against the orange cockpit. But I think blue ties us back in from the blue on the outside. So I'm going to go blue. Got to grab Tooth and Coats Leviathan Blue. That'll spin up. And again, I'm not going to go massively detailed. I'm not going to put any blends or any kind of glow or anything. I'm just going to paint the screens nice and simple, nice and solid, and then we'll go from there. And then if I need to brighten it up, I can do. So, Leviathan Blue. This is going to give us a nice deep color to work with. Same again on this panel. And on this one. So I think we've definitely got 3 screens there. Already we're seeing that color pop. Maybe this is on the top as well? Ooh, I don't know. We'll leave it just those 3 for now. And then there were on this bit here, there's actually screens in that as well. So I'm going to make sure that they're blue. And I'm just pushing the brushes into the corners. It's not immaculate, it's not perfect. It will definitely do. Same again on the other side. You go over, you can just do a little finger wipe. Just to get rid of anything excess. Yeah, I think that's it for the screens. Nothing on the chairs. I might do it on the actual arms of the chair. I like the idea that there are touch screens just there. And I'm going to do it. for the other ones. Passengers playing Pong or something. There we go. Roger, roger. I think that bottom bar just there isn't a space bar. I think that's a screen. Then we're going to grab a couple of colors. This is where I might grab green for those keys, or white. Probably white, actually. Let's grab Trooper White. Doesn't need that much of a mix, which is nice. And again, I'm still using that same pretty thick brush. I'm just trying to grab a little bit on, load a little bit of paint onto that tip. And then I'm gonna stabilize my hand, just do light little taps. What I will do is I will pick out a few to be different colors. Not many. We'll do a couple in the same sort of areas. So we have all of these like that, and then I'm going to take some greens and some reds and just do a couple of them, although I've missed all of the buttons on the sides. Which I think would have more reds, actually. And they don't need to be symmetrical. That's the good thing about this bit. We can change it up. I'm going to use some pure red. Pure. Ooh. It's been a while since I used that one. Whoop. And just picking out a couple of buttons, just to give it again a few different ways of telling stories. Helps with immersion. I mean, not everything is the same. Here we go. Down on the sides, those ones are all covered. These buttons here. Again, I'm going to do the majority of these in red. And then I might come back in and grab a few. I might just leave them all as red on that side. It's not necessarily an area that everyone's going to see, but doesn't mean it has to all be the same. Give the occasional white button. Just to mix things up a little bit. Then might go red on the seats. just to change things up a little bit. But actually, I'm not sure if I'm a big fan of that. One side's certainly heavier done than the other anyway. I don't know, we'll see. I'm going to leave that one as it is, and I'll leave the other two where they are. I'm going to throw that back in to our ship. And once more, again, once that's in, we're starting to see the colours starting to come through and show up a little bit more. I'm going to throw the lid back on, or the top. And again, when you look through, you then start to see just little catches of detail. Which is going to help, especially like with the naked eye, from where I am this close. You can be like, oh, fucking hell. The inside's also usable / paintable. It's going to help tell a story. I think I will probably end up changing that seat from red to maybe an orange or a yellow, just to kind of either, probably a yellow, maybe just be a slightly different tone from the orange that's on top. That's still tacky and a little bit wet on my windows, so we're going to leave that be for the time being. Take my gloves off again. That is coming together. Getting there slowly. Right. What can we work on next? Ideally, I don't really want to touch the outside until that primer has dried, which means that we might be done for the day. Can't wait to see the interior pick on Insta. Well, that might wait until we are at least got more than the base colors on details, but we're getting there. Slowly building it up. But I think that might actually be where we might have to draw it today, just because that's still just ever so slightly wet. I could go in and detail some more bits, I guess. But will I get enough time then to go around with the Sky Rat? Still looks good even at the moment. Yeah, but that's the thing, is that I will happily take that. I think, you know, this isn't the storyteller. It's just doing enough that, like, when you come in, there are those points of interest. So when you, for example, like, you open it up and you're like, okay, this is some kind of cargo hold, but look, there are terminals, there are buttons up here. That's going to draw the ire of the player. If you're playing a TTRPG, if you are playing, you know, something like Legion or 40k, maybe this is an objective. But again, it's going to draw the ire up to this part of the ship. And I think I definitely need to take those blues and then just start adding some brighter sections into them to make them, you know, just to make them a little bit more detailed. But it doesn't need to be. This isn't an in-detail paint job. This is me just trying out, especially the outside of the ship, that aqua wave. That is kind of the main focus of what I want to do. The inside, for me, doesn't overly matter at this point. But you do have that detail there if people do want to go that far. Same with like all of those edges around the flooring. Every one of those panels is interchangeable, and every one of those panels with Grid Forge, you could like paint either a yellow square or a red square all around it and really start adding color to the inside. But I think I'm going to keep mine gunmetal because that's how I tend to do my sci-fi terrain. That way it's interchangeable with other things that I've got going on. These two front ones, they're not tacky. I might see how we do with some brushing on of just the Sky Rat on those front two nostril bits. So this and this, because they're really small, they're already dry. So let's see how that works. Just going to mix up this Sky Rat again. And then we're going to give it a shake. Good old agitators in there. I will move this bit to one side. I still haven't managed to get around there with the neon paint on the orange yet, actually. I probably could have done that. Okay. I throw quite a bit in there, and I'm actually going to take some airbrush thinner. I'm just going to drop a couple of drops in there. Give that a mix around. So I want this to go on smooth. Before I start painting it on, I'm going to clean my brush. Grab some. So a lot of these run as kind of like an interference paint. With the airbrush, you really get, I think, more opacity to it. So at the moment, it's just like so. You won't really see too much of a shift going on there. I'm going to grab that one over there. Just want to see what it's like. The other one without any prime airbrush filler in it. Filler? Thinner. So again, I don't think you're going to see that where you are there. It's still going to look black on the camera. Oh, actually, those bits are okay. Let's go for it. So I think this is going to take a couple of layers. Again, just going to let that sit there and do its thing. I'm going to kind of just have to let that sit there a little streaky, and we'll have to go over it a couple more times. Again, just letting that sit in there. It's a little bit streaky at the moment, but obviously that's that interference style paint. Let's see what happens with it. It's kind of a trust the process job. We know that we've got all of the metallic flake going across it. Then we can just layer up as layers dry. There are certain turbo dorks as well, like especially the metallics, which work better over their primary color. So if you have like purple people eater, it works best over a purple. That way you get in that like solid color coming through. Obviously the black, we will have to wait and see how that turns out. I will do a couple of layers of it as it dries and we keep going, and then I will probably give it a gloss finish over the top to really give those smooth finishes. Okay, so that's that side. Once more, I'm going to just take out those detailed bits. I'd say it's definitely one of those trust the process projects compared to your confidence before you started. Yeah, for sure. But I also know that Turbo Dork is, like, I've used it a few times. So I'm like, I think you expect it to be this opaque color because of how it looks on the bottle and how it looks in the bottle. But it's about working out how interference paints act and work. Again, it's been a long time since I've done this. As we layer up, we're going to see those colors get really, really strong. So, again, just looks like a black gloss on the camera. And that's okay. Put this back inside. Quite nice is because of the Kickstarter, you can get printed ships. Sometimes when I 3D print things, they don't go back together all that well. These guys smashed it. I can put that in one-handed without any of the fuss. So that's where we're at so far. Still gonna do another layer over the back one. Okay. Same again over here. What would be good about the gloss coat at the end is it allows us to get rid of any heightened areas of streaks or anything as well. think for this afternoon, that is going to be it. So, where we're at. We have the interference going in over those blacks to hopefully eventually give us a nice metallic, shiny kind of set of windows. We haven't done the neons on the orange yet, but we do have that orange pop in, and we've got the insides on their way. Which again, this right now is usable as is. You could throw this down on the table, and I'm sure everyone would be happy. I want to go that little bit extra and get a bit further in terms of some of the detailing, especially with those neons and stuff. I want to throw a UV black light over it and just see what happens. But yeah, so that is, for now, where we are at with... Let's go back to there. There it is. That is where we are at with that Aqua Wave Carrack Fleet drop lander. That will certainly do. Guys, thank you so much for hanging out with me on Twitch and YouTube today. There'll probably be more of these coming because I need to get this one finished. Thank you, Dak. Thank you, Geeky Phoenix. We're going to be back tonight. If you're watching live, we'll be back at about 7 p.m. For Curse of Strahd. And we'll be back maybe tomorrow for some more of this painting. It depends where I'm at. But please go check out the Kickstarter, which is pinned in chats on Twitch. I'll throw it in for YouTube if anybody's there. And go check out the Carrack Fleet by Games Art by Philipp. Otherwise, thank you so very much. And we'll see you all again real soon. Take it easy, guys.